Fun fact, did you know that I share the same birthday as the Honda Civic, July 12, but thankfully obviously not the year. And the Honda Civic is now celebrating its 50th anniversary, and what a way to celebrate this milestone than with the 11th generation Honda Civic. This car is more than just another boy racer's dream car. This car right here is finally incredibly refined. And of course, this one right here is the 2022 Honda Civic in the base model S trim. Today I'm going to show you around this car, and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. Let's start with the exterior styling of the 11th generation Honda Civic S, the FE body. Up front, it's a lot more reserved now, a lot more premium feeling, but it's definitely not as sporty as before. Some people might not like that. Personally, I absolutely love the look. So much of these unpainted black trim on it, you don't get LED headlights, just regular headlights over there. And there is a hole right there for your fog lights, but this particular trim doesn't really get fog lights. But it's not until you get on over towards the side of the car that you notice just how gigantuous Civics have gotten. Over the past 50 years, Civics have gotten bigger and bigger, and this car right here is no exception. In fact, this Civic right here is only around 2 inches shorter and narrower than the previous generation Accord. Nonetheless, you still do get rather sporty looking rims, 16 inches on this one. And then the rest of the car over here, beautiful lines, all very clean, and also a really nice quarter window. While the front and the side of the Honda Civic looks incredibly sleek, the rear is best described as a very polished looking rear end. From afar, you might think that this is a Honda Accord, but there are some hints that will say that this car is still a little bit more of its compact brother and a little bit more sporty. This small deck lid spoiler, of course the big Civic badge, and also the VTEC turbo badge. A lovely tail lights, and you do get a reverse camera on this one, but you do lose out on reverse sensors, and you only get one legitimate exhaust pipe down below. Thankfully, you don't get any fake exhaust over here. Open up your trunk and you have 400 plus liters of space, almost 500 liters, excellent room, and the rear seats even fold down 60/40, plus you have a false floor which houses your space saver spare tire. Open up this hood, and true to the Honda Civic's heritage, you get to see all the guts of the car. There's no fancy engine cover in here. And under this is a 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 4 engine making 178 horsepower and 240 newton meters of torque. Really incredibly preppy, and is mated to a CVT transmission. But don't worry, despite those power figures being rather high, fuel economy is still pretty good. You get 8 kilometers per liter in the city. You can take it up to 10 if you hypermile, but on the highway you can do around 17. Hop on inside, and just like the exterior, you will not be disappointed in here. First, we check the door thud. Number one, it sounds really good. And number two, the materials you get inside the interior, despite this car being a base model trim, is actually pretty good for the class. You do get some soft touch on the dashboard, but that is about it. Nonetheless, it looks rather beautiful. I mean, take a look at your steering wheel. Very sleek, piano black on it, multi-function with your adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. Buttons all over there, incredibly easy to use. Also tilt and telescoping. Then you have an instrument cluster that is partly digital and partly analog, 7 inches for the digital part. Center screen is also 7 inches, also has your reverse camera, and has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but both of which are wired. These air vents must be the main feature over here though, because of this honeycomb pattern, which just looks so crazy good. I love the look of it, even the feel of it, it's just excellent. Then single zone climate control, USB port 12 volt outlet, and a shifter with S and L mode, economy mode, electronic handbrake, brake hold, 2 cup holders, and some of this faux carbon fiber. Now the seats. Yes, this is a base model car, and yes, the seats are made out of fabric, but they are really comfortable. The thigh support it gives you, the bolsterings, it's just perfect for your everyday trips and even on your long drives. In terms of features, the Honda Civic S does get dual airbags for both the driver and the passenger, as well as side airbags. But if you want to get curtain airbags, you do have to step up to the higher trim models. Also, the higher trim models gets a Bose sound system, but the sound system in this one is already pretty good as it is. Now here at the back of the Honda Civic S, you check the door thud too. sounds pretty good, better than the front. And once you're back here, you're gonna enjoy tons of legroom, tons of headroom despite having the sloping roofline. And I really do appreciate these quarter windows because they let in a lot of light inside the cabin. Unfortunately, you only get a map pocket on the passenger side, and while you do get your own armrest with 2 cup holders, you don't get your rear air vents. But that is totally fine because the car's cabin isn't exactly super big, so the front air vents does still reach here at the back. Now, can you see 3 people in the Honda Civic S? You can actually do it because the center seat is rather low and you still do get some headroom. However, it's still best reserved for shorter trips because the center seat itself, the cushion, is a little bit on the narrow side. So now we drive the Honda Civic S. And don't worry that I said that this car is very grown-up feeling, because you can still have tons of fun with this car. First of all, the body control that you get with the Civic is honestly quite excellent, probably one of the best in its class. The only car that I've tried that's about as good as this one would be the Mazda 3. But the Mazda 3 doesn't really get that much power as this one, and it is also a little bit more expensive. The steering in this car is also pretty good. It's rather direct, although it doesn't give you that much feedback. But it's also possible that that's because this base model S trim does get 16-inch rims. If you upgrade to the RS trims, you would get 17. So I would assume that you will get a little bit more feedback out of those tires and a little bit more control. But anyway, I'm very excited to try that. As for this trim, yes, steering is great. It's incredibly light in the city, but when you do want to have fun with it, it's incredibly fun. I mean, you can just easily throw this car despite its size, despite the Civic getting bigger and bigger. Throwing this car around corners is still very much possible. Next thing they really improved upon on this Civic is that the suspension is now so much better. In old Civics, I wouldn't really complain. I wouldn't say that they're jarring, but in this one, it's pretty much like riding an Accord of old. The Accords from before, they're very comfortable. They're not as sporty feeling, but this one, it gets the right balance between sporty and also fun. Driving this every day on the city, even with the bad roads of Manila, you will not feel like you are driving a fun car. Not at all. It's just so damn comfortable. The way it deals with road undulations, it just kind of soaks it up. You feel it a little bit, but it soaks up most of it. Now that we are here on the highway, we can try out the power, and power-wise, man, there's just a little bit of turbo lag, but once you hit around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM, it kicks in really, really fast. And then you get a little bit more power once that VTEC kicks in at the higher RPM ranges. So you can easily just hoon this car anytime you want. In fact, Honda says that the 0 to 100 time in this Civic is now at 7.5 seconds, more or less, and my God, it feels a lot faster than that. Even when you're on the highway and you want to pass somebody, just bear your foot down into the throttle, and the CVT doesn't really hesitate. If you saw that warning, that is because this car has the entire Honda sensing package, so you do still get your adaptive cruise control, your autonomous emergency braking, and speaking of that adaptive cruise control, you even get low speed follow. You can set this to a minimum of 30 kilometers per hour, and it will follow the car in front of you even in really low traffic speeds. When it comes to NVH in this car, noise is actually pretty well subdued for the first time in 50 years. Thank you, Honda. There is still a little bit of road noise that you will get from these tires, but I think it's because these are slightly eco tires. Change it to a set of pretty good tires and it's gonna be incredibly quiet. But wind noise is just so hushed out in here. As for vibrations, you don't get much out of it despite this being a rather small 1.5 liter engine. So overall, what I would say is that this is an incredibly refined car. The level of self-driving autonomy you can do with this one too is pretty good, because right now I have the lane keep assist and I have adaptive cruise control on. It just tells me to like touch the steering wheel once in a while, but I mean, look at this. I can just take my hands off of it and it'll pretty much drive itself. This truly is the future of self-driving cars. I love it here with the Civic. After 50 years, Honda's finally managed to create not just a fun driving, and not only is it practical, but also a very premium and refined car. And for the first time ever, I am proud that I do share the same birthday as the Honda Civic. And at 1.368 million pesos, this Honda Civic and the base S trim is more than enough for all your needs. And I really do think that this is one of the best cars in its class.